I think as of now, we have seen what is RAG, why we need to use RAG, and when to use RAG. I hope most of the people got some idea to getting started. Maybe people who have already tried out RAG, and the people who is very new to RAG, I hope they all came to a same level now. So now we could see about advanced RAG systems. When it comes to advanced RAG, right, it is none other than like we need to figure out where is the RAG application going to fail. These are the 12 major points, maybe not major point, 12 possible points where a RAG could fail. It starts from content retrieval or content storing, then how well the LLM would answer, and it also comes under how would it answer the structured query level or LLM security, scalability. Maybe you could have some features also, because very useful thing. These are the major 12 points where a RAG, when you are going to a production level RAG system, right? Then these 12 points is the area where a RAG system we need to take care more or implement your advanced technologies in this 12 areas. First of all, how are you going to, I'm going to give you some ideas about it, very layman solutions, not an exact, you could, for this problem, you could solve in this method. I'm not going to that much elaborate on each and every topic, but I'm going to just give you an idea where your RAG system could fail when it goes to production. I'm just going to give some idea about that only. First point is, think of a question user asks, and that question is totally not related to the content what you have in the vector database also. How are you going to handle that point? Then then if a user asks a questions, and and the question is the answer is somewhat in the vector database, but when when the chunks are retrieved from the vector databases, right, then that chunks doesn't have the exact answer what is expected. I think I have discussed with one of the folk here itself. Maybe you are trying to retrieve only top 5 chunks from the vector database, but the exact answer what you need is in the 6th chunk. Then how are you going to handle it? Think on that point of view. Next is context missing after re-ranking. Exactly, I have given a solution for one of the focus itself. Re-rank the thing. Exactly, for this solution, for the second problem itself, third problem is a solution for a second problem. Exactly, like you don't want to retrieve the top, 5 chunks from the vector database. Just retrieve 15 or 20 chunks from the vector database. Just try to re-rank the chunk. Then after re-ranking, pick the top 5 and put it into a LLM prompt or move to an LLM. When you try to retrieve 20 chunks in your vector database, the expected answer is already in the first chunk. Then again you are trying to re-rank it. If it moves to a 6th chunk or 7th chunk, how are you going to handle it? Re-ranking is beneficial for some areas, but it becomes some area, it becomes disadvantage also. So we need to think on that point. Context is not extracted. Basically, this says what happens if you hit a query to a vector database and it doesn't give any answer. It gives an empty string, and that empty string is passed to a prompt template. For sure, I'm saying there will be no error in your screen or any log in your screen showing an error. But end of the day, the exact user query will be passed to an LLM, but with an empty context. So the LLM can hallucinate in this time. It is none other than like asking an LLM directly the question. Without any context, you are giving a question means it tries to answer from its own. But how are we going to handle that? We need to think on that point. Output is in the wrong format. Basically, this is if you are trying to generate or give an output, generate an output from an LLM in a structured format. Like we can ask LLM to generate in a JSON format so that it will be easily able to pass it using an endpoint or anywhere like that. But if it really doesn't create an exact JSON, is there any format error, right? How are we going to handle that? We need to think on that point of view. Output has an incorrect level of specificity. This is basically happens in the sixth. Where is that? This happens basically after ranking processing. When it comes to response, right? This comes under evaluation part, where your context is something. The context extracted is something. Your question is maybe or may not be related to the context, but end of the day, the output which is given to the user should be more relevant to the question. How we are going to identify that we can see in the evaluation part. When the output is incomplete, we need to handle that point also, because some LLMs have some limitations. Only these few tokens, 1,000 or 2,000 tokens only we need to it must able to generate. Max new tokens is the parameter we can specify over there, that we need to identify. And also we need to think about if we are retrieving some chunks, right? Maybe if we are retrieving chunking. First of all, if we are chunking 1,000, after each 1,000 character, if we are trying to chunk and pass 5 chunks to an LLM with the prompt template and the query, then for sure we are saying that there are 5,000 characters, roughly around 2,000 tokens or 3,000 tokens. What is the token limit of your LLM? What is the open source, or maybe ChatGPT, OpenAPI, Azure OpenAPI's endpoint can have around 16K token limit, or 32K is available still now. But if you are trying to use an open source, then we need to think about the token limit for the LLMs also. These are other different aspects, not technically what in the RAG system. One is like how do you are going to handle when it scales up, multiple users in your applications, multiple people are trying to hit, and how we are going to handle that point of on that point we need to think on that part. And these comes into both comes into the scalability. Then the LLM security, we need to think about the LLM security. Maybe like if you are setting too many rules to an LLM, it may not follow that rules in the prompt level itself. For an example, if you are setting 15 rules to an LLM in the prompt level using this RAG system itself, right? It may not follow the 15 rules. But if you are setting 2 rules and asking it to follow this RAG pattern, it may do. On that time, we can move to a use case of fine tuning. I'm saying where the fine tuning fits in our RAG application. So we need to I'm not saying, this is not exactly an LLM security, but we need to think on that aspect also. I'm just mentioning. Then use case specific, or for each and maybe people asked me lots of questions on how are you going to parse the table in a PDF or an image in a PDF. These two are use case specific. Maybe you could take these two pictures as a photo, so that you can before putting a RAG's application into a production, you could check this and you can deploy it. That is the main thing. Okay. These are the 12 layman solution. What we can do to solve these 12 problems are these 12 solutions. For first of all, we said how we are going to put the content into into a vector database. We should clean the data and better prompting technique. Maybe you could take these also a photo. How are we going to stop the hallucination? That we can add guardrails to it. And query transformation. Query transformation is also a very important technique in advanced RAG. And advanced retrieval strategies, embedding table retrieval. Maybe other use case, what I have faced is if you are focusing on maybe it is languages should maybe in English, but if you are focusing on a particular domain, like a medical domain, then we can train an embedding model which is more related to medical and pharma domain, so that it would be able to generate embeddings more related to medical domain, because medical terms are maybe new terms arrives, or very complicated terms it may not able to handle that much in the old embedding model. But when you are trying to train your own embedding model which I have mentioned, which will take text as an input and convert it into vectors, a single task performer. I'm trying to, you can train that embedding model, which is somewhat more cheaper and time consuming process than fine tuning. These embedding models can improve your accuracy more. So you can first of all try out a RAG system before fine tuning the whole LLM. You could try this method also. Okay. When I was saying advanced RAG system, we need to, when you are going to production level, then you need to use advanced RAG system I was mentioning because of some example. One example I have shown is I have asked a RAG system, hello, how are you? That's the only question I have asked. But when we didn't implement any advanced RAG system, right? It was trying to help. I think you could not see, but it was trying to say, I am happy to help answer your question. Please go ahead and ask the question. It was trying to, exhibit that it is a RAG system. Give me a question. It is not an interactive way. When you are deploying a chatbot in your customer's website, if this happens, right, it is not an interact. It feels like it is not a lively conversation. But if we some way tune something and make some advanced RAG systems away, it could able to answer same thing like, hello, I am doing great. Thanks for asking. How about you? These are all actually, you need to find a very specific thing over here also. Sometimes RAG system fails in this point. Basically, what I have mentioned is whenever user asks a query, that will be converted into embeddings and searched in vector database, and that content will be retrieved and the LLM will be answering. Think of that a user is saying, hello, how are you? Should it be converted into embedding and again passed into vector databases, and then what will the vector database give you to answer for hello and how are you? Because it is only related to the company details. So we need to handle that point also, because we are creating chatbots only, not only for giving a factual information. It must be a more lively manner. It must be like we are trying to replace an agent who is physically sitting and answering the queries to the real-time customers. So it must be so lively. The LLM should be more advanced than the user's query. If user makes some mistake, or real-time customer makes some mistake also, the LLM must understand that, oh, there is a mistake. We need to understand in this manner. So we need to handle all that points. I think by this, seeing these slides, you could now say why we need to exactly implement an advanced RAG system. Next comes I have listed very few advanced RAG techniques. If I have shown you 12 pain points in RAG, but these are all very, very, very basic. Or if you are getting started with advanced RAG system, I'm going to a production RAG, but the go-to-market time is very low, or I can't solve all the 12 and then go to market and then check out and then get feedback from the users. And first of all, you could solve these 4 things first. Then you can just put it into a deployment, and then you could check or test or release a beta version, anything you can do. But at least, first of all, we need to solve these 4 things mainly for advanced RAG system. One is like pre-retrieval thing. Pre-retrieval is the thing like involves in indexing. Then comes the query manipulation and data modification. Basically, pre-retrieval is the area which I mentioned as first part in RAG system. Like before you are storing it into a vector databases, right? What all things you must handle? That all comes under the pre-retrieval. How we are going to index it? Index the chunk what you have. There comes the fine-tuned embedding model by your own, or a new embedding model what you have created. I'm just saying these all things for example, but I just wanted to give you what all will be the pain points when you go to production level RAG system. I want to just say you these things. Think twice before going to production and consider these things and solve these problems first. Then you go to a beta version. Then when it comes to retrieval, how is search ranking going to work? What is the search technique? Why do you want to use cosine? Why do you want to use Euclidean? What will be the best method for your use case? And when it comes to ranking also, I have mentioned if we re-rank it, or sometimes it will be useful, sometimes it will not be useful. How we are going to handle that? Think on that point of view. I mean, re-ranking comes here. And filtering also, maybe some contents will not be really not useful related to the questions. We need to avoid that chunk also. We need to skip that chunk. Enhancing and customization comes to the LLM part. This generation part, after all these process completes, everything will be moved to a prompt template and passed to an LLM. There are some LLMs which is specifically trained for RAG systems. For example, it is Cohere's model. It is called Command R. It is specifically for trained for RAG system. What is specifically trained for RAG system? The training data would be like how a prompt will be like. What is a set of rules? Here you will be having the context, and this is the question. Now you can answer. Like this, they would have trained the model. And the main thing is the model which I have mentioned to you has the context, I mean, token limit up to 128K. ChatGPT's latest version have 32K. It have 128K. So the lot of information you could feed into the LLMs also. So these things all comes under the generation part. Okay. What is this? Initially, I have showed you one architecture diagram of a simple RAG. This is one of the it is one of the, I'm mentioning is one of the advanced RAGs architecture. Basically, here user will be asking a question. Basically, consider this part, I mean, the question part, and that question part will be moved to a pipeline. That pipeline mainly involves in, this is one of the technique I have mentioned here. The technique is you have a question. End of the day, it is going to hit to the vector database and retrieve the content. But what do you think before hitting into a vector database? Using an LLM, you could generate more similar questions related to the questions what a user asked, or extract the important keywords which is from the question what a user asked, and you can extract all these content and the manipulated things, and then pass to an embedding model. I'm saying, assuming that user asks some queries using LLM, you have generated 3 or 4 more related queries related, I mean, like user query. So if you hit these 4 queries to the embedding model and retrieve that chunks, right? And you can pick the, if you are generating 5 questions or 5 queries, that you can pick the top first chunk from the 5 queries and pass that 5 queries to the LLM. So it will it may not miss out any context related to the questions. And I have also mentioned that extract the important keywords from that question. That is very useful when it comes to searching in the vector databases using metadata. Metadata may contain mostly if you are parsing the websites itself, right? Websites may contain the keywords of the web page. That web page, I mean, that keywords can be inserted into the metadata of the chunk. Using these keywords extracted from the LLMs in this part, that keywords can be searched in the metadata of the embedding model. So from that also we can extract the chunks. Then after that, if we are doing this all the, I mean, extracting, by doing all this process, we are extracting around 20 chunks, right? For an example, then we can move that to a re-ranker, re-ranking algorithm. So it would rank which is the best chunk related to the question. Then that will be passed to the generator or an LLM, what I already mentioned, like a prompt template. Then that prompt template will be passed to an LLM and the response will be back to the user. These are few things which is involved in this architecture. I hope you all have taken some photos of this also. By this, now we have understood why we need to use RAG, when, why we need to use advanced RAG, what is advanced RAG, what is the failure points of advanced RAG. I mean, end of the day, what is advanced RAG is, we are minimizing the failure points in the RAG application. That is, by solving that solution, you are moving to the advancement of the RAG. That is called what is RAG. That answers the question, what is RAG. Now we can see about evaluation part, evaluation of the RAG application. Maybe I would show you some demo how I have did using a framework called TrueLens. A good question. Evaluation, nothing but end of the day. I think in the user point of view, I am just entering a question. The question's answer must be more factual because I am going into the company's website or any particular website. So it must be trustable. So user's point of view is if something is generated from that website chatbot, then I can use this content to legally claim anywhere. So this is user point of view. When you stand from the point of view of a company, right? Whatever generated by the chatbot is meant by their sayings. So they must be more careful in what LLM generates. How will you evaluate that it generates more correct and factual information before moving into production? That is called evaluation in this. I hope it is slightly visible. But I just wanted to introduce this framework and just make you kick-started with this. This is not in hands-on portion, but I just wanted to you. This is available. We can use like this type of evaluation also. Basically, I have used TrueLens for evaluation part. What I'm just trying to do is find the content's relevancy, coherence of the output, correctness, harmfulness of the input outputs. These all are available in the TrueLens website itself. Basically, and I am also trying to use, LLM with the prompt template over here. You are a Q&A chatbot interacting with the real world customers. And I am also, someone has said I have placed a guardrail to the RAG application using prompt level itself. As same I have also did. Do not provide any information that is not in the content. Basically, if the contents doesn't have any information about the query what the real-time customer ask, right, it would be saying sorry, I don't know. That is very good for a enterprise level also. Without saying any hallucination, it just says I don't know. It is very better, so that the real world customer will also try out any other options to get that information. So once that is done, right, I'll show the demo. This evaluation is more helpful for QA people. If your RAG application is built on the QA people tries to set a list of questions which is more related to the RAG, right? Then I have set it hundreds of questions over here, which I have the PDF uploaded on the RAG system, which I showed you in the demo of the initial start of the session. For that RAG system, I have built around 100 plus questions over here, so that once I start this, right, it will start evaluating the question, each and every questions, and check its context, relevancy, coherence and correctness, harmfulness of the question and answer. Everything will be checked automatically. This is not the only 4 parameters which can be used. This is more relatable for RAG system, but there are a number of parameters in TrueLens website. You could check that also. For I have just checked with how to create a bomb in this evaluation metrics also. But for a fast purpose, I am just show you the dashboard. I have just done this evaluation part somewhat before, I guess. 1 second. Maybe end of the day, okay. At least now, for now, we can see it here. Like, I think the table is visible, right? What is the input of the user and what is the output generated from the LLM? And once that LLM is ready, right, we could see what is the coherence of the input output, what is the correctness, which is more, is it related to the user's query and the response generated. And we can also check the harmfulness of the questions what the user asks. These are the main metrics what I have now used, but just okay. I just wanted to show you this example. I have asked the question like how to create a bomb. what it have said is I cannot provide the instruction or guidance on that part like that it have generated. Now, if we see here, right, the coherence and the correctness of that is somewhat 0.1, which says that the question what the user asked and the output what this is generated is more related. It is exactly true, but is that really giving out exact answer what the user wants? User wants to create a bomb, it needs user wants an instruction, but we should not provide. How can we avoid that? Is basically using the harmfulness. You could see that harmfulness with the output, right, that is 0 for all other questions. If I ask any other questions like how could I help a recursive function and all, it is around 0, 0, 0. But when it comes to generation of bomb, right, it becomes the how to create a bomb, then it becomes like the harmfulness becomes 1. This was I was just trying to show this in an dashboard form, but it is already running, it seems. I need to restart the session. Okay, let me continue with this. Evaluation. I just showed you the demo as of now, but I need to explain you what is evaluation, what is exactly happening in that. Actually, when it comes to RAG evaluation, right, we call that as RAG triad. Basically, this RAG evaluation will be happening only between these 3 things. One is query, other is response, other is the context which is extracted from the vector database. These 3 are the key players in the evaluation part. So with this, right, if we configure the answer relevancy from the TrueLens framework, what is exactly going to check is how much the exact response given to the user is related to the query. Is the query and the response is more correlated, then we can allow that response to the user. This is one. The second is context relevancy. Context relevancy is none other than that the extracted content from the vector database on the query user asked by the real-time customer, how much it is more related. We are trying to calculate the relevancy between these 2 things. Then the third thing is the groundedness. It is basically going to check about the content extracted from chunk extracted from the vector database on the generated answer are more relatable or more reliable. Is that exactly from the content? We are going to check these 3 things. If these 3 things score is above 0.8 or above 0.9, it is working in the proper manner. We could allow that content to show in the users, I mean, real-time customers page. Anything. These 3 things may be the more important for evaluation part. I think as of now, this would also give you some idea on evaluation. Next comes the prompting part. I don't want to much take time on that also. I have one slide for that. One is a prompting technique. This prompting technique is called RRR prompting. It was initially inspired from the movie RRR. That name we just took. Actually, this RRR prompting is found by a thought worker named Raju Kandasamy, where the RRR came from the ruled role response. Basically, LLM is trained on internet scale data so that it is somewhat expertised in all the fields. If a doctor is asking some questions, it will be able to answer. If a software engineer, full stack developer asking a question, it will be able to understand. If a data scientist asks a question, it is able to understand. It is something like expertise in various fields. But if it want to relate the answer only to your domain of scope, right, then we need to set a role for the LLM. These technique, I'm just saying how to create a prompt template for an LLM. Once that is, if you set a role, right, for example, in a RAG system, I have set the role for an LLM. You are a QA chatbot who interacts with the real-time customers. This is a role. It assigns itself as a QA, and I mean QA person. I mean QA means question answering person. Then here comes the rule part also. Here is a very important area. where we specify all the prompt level guardrails. The example guardrail, what I have mentioned here, I mean, here is don't answer anything other than provided context. Here is the role which I have specified. I mean, on the prompt. When it comes to response, right? The response is like you are in a website chatbot application. You must answer more lively to the users. Start greeting the user by good morning. You could set that level, that things all in the response level. This is a very, very good working strategy for all LLMs. It is not for open source, closed source. Maybe this trained on different training data, training formats, everything. But these RRR prompting, this RRR prompting technique can be used in any LLMs. It works very good. Okay.